The first time I saw him, the world seemed to shift under my feet, like the earth itself had paused for a breath. He stood there, unapologetically confident, with eyes that could undo 100 guarded hearts, and a voice that didn't speak in words but in promises yet to be made. His presence was not just seen, it was felt like heat radiating through skin, lingering long after he had passed. I didn't know then what kind of danger he would become to my quiet life, how his name would ink itself into every late night thought and every waking breath. There was something in the way he looked at me, undressing my hesitation, peeling back every layer I had built to keep the world out. And in that moment, I knew the rules I had lived by were about to be broken. Not gently, but wildly, completely, in the way fire consumes dry forest bold and without mercy. And I wanted it. I wanted him. Even before a word was spoken, my heart had already begun to burn for something that felt forbidden and inevitable. He didn't touch me that first night, but his silence did. It crept beneath my skin, curled against the places I had long hidden from the world, and made itself at home. Every glance he cast, every pause in his breath near mine, spoke louder than anything our lips could say. He watched me like a man who already knew what my skin would taste like, what my sigh would sound like pressed beneath his body. I tried to keep my distance, to laugh it off, to turn away and pretend I didn't feel it. But I did. God, I did. Every inch of me responded to him like gravity, like instinct, like sin wearing a smile. And when he finally spoke, his words were not soft. They were bold, certain, intimate, like he was reading from the pages of my hidden desires. He said my name like it was sacred and cursed in the same breath. I didn't know whether to run from him or fall straight into the fire, and part of me already knew resisting would only make the fall more beautiful. When we finally touched, it wasn't accidental. It wasn't something that slipped through the cracks of our control. No, it was deliberate, slow and charged with the kind of tension that makes the air hum and skin shiver. His fingers traced my jawline like he had been dying to do it forever, like he'd waited for this exact moment to claim something he believed belonged to him. And in that moment I let him. I let go of every hesitation, every voice in my head that warned me not to trust someone like him. There was no room for doubt when his lips found mine, just the heat, the hunger, the breathless gasp that escaped my throat as his mouth pressed against me like he meant to consume. He kissed me like a promise he intended to keep, like a storm crashing against the shore after years of silence. And I kissed him back with the kind of desperation that only years of loneliness could birth. It was wild, it was reckless, and it was everything I never dared to want until him. His hands didn't just explore my body, they memorized it like he was learning a map he never planned to forget. Every touch was bold, confident, unapologetic. He didn't ask for permission, because he didn't have to. My body answered him before my voice ever could. The way he pressed against me, the way his breath mingled with mine, the way his eyes locked onto mine even as his hands moved lower. It was all too much and still not enough. There was no space left for restraint, no breath left to reason. The world around us disappeared, dissolved into shadows and heat and tangled sheets. We didn't make love, we collided, like galaxies desperate to merge, like fire and gasoline finally given a match. I had never known such hunger could be shared, could be mirrored so completely in someone else's eyes. And he didn't just take, I gave. I offered everything I was, everything I'd kept hidden, and he accepted it with the kind of reverence that made it feel holy. With him, every boundary I once held became a memory. In the aftermath, tangled in each other's limbs, and the heavy quiet of satisfaction, he didn't pull away, he stayed. His hand rested on my stomach, his thumb drawing lazy circles on my skin, grounding me in a way I'd never known before. We didn't speak, and we didn't need to. The silence was full of understanding, of tension melted into intimacy, of the beginning of something neither of us dared name. I lay there watching his chest rise and fall, wondering how one night could change so much. I should have been afraid. I should have questioned the intensity, the speed, the fact that I had given myself so completely to someone who still felt like a beautiful question mark. But I wasn't afraid. I felt more alive than I had in years. And when he finally whispered my name again, it didn't feel like a sound. It felt like a vow. I knew I wasn't just falling for him. I was already his, in a way that no one had ever been. And somehow that surrender didn't scare me. It thrilled me. We began to meet in secret, each moment stolen from the responsibilities and expectations of our everyday lives. He became my addiction, my escape, my deepest indulgence. We lived in the space between kisses and whispers, where time moved slower, and the world couldn't reach us. I memorized every scar on his chest, every groan that escaped his throat, every way his body moved against mine. And he studied me with equal devotion, like I was his favorite mystery to solve. But it wasn't just lust, it was something more dangerous. We shared truths in the dark, revealed wounds we hid from everyone else. He told me about the father who never stayed, the dreams he buried, the nights he couldn't sleep. I told him about the ache of always being strong, the loneliness behind my laughter, the things I'd never dared speak out loud. In those secret hours, we weren't just bodies, we were souls, raw and unfiltered. And each time he left, I felt emptier than before, already counting the seconds, until he would return and make me whole again. The danger was never in our passion, it was in how quickly it turned into something more. The lines between desire and love blurred until they vanished entirely, until I couldn't remember where he ended. And I began. I wasn't prepared for how deeply he would root himself into my heart, how just the thought of him could unmake me. I started dreaming of him, not just in bed sheets and shadows, but in daylight and permanence. I saw a future in his touch, a forever in his kiss. But the world we lived in wasn't kind to a love like ours. There were questions we couldn't answer, people we couldn't hurt, lives we couldn't unravel. We loved like thieves, stealing moments and praying we wouldn't be caught. And yet no guilt ever outweighed the joy. No risk ever felt greater than the reward of being his. Every I love you was said with trembling honesty. Every goodbye was a promise that the fire between us would never fade. And even if the world tried to tear us apart, I knew I would always find my way back to him. One night as rain poured outside, and our bodies lay tangled in the aftermath of another desperate reunion, he looked at me like he was memorizing me for the last time. His eyes held a question, one he hadn't yet asked, and my heart already knew the answer. I would follow him anywhere. I would burn every bridge, if it meant walking with him through the ashes. He leaned in, his lips ghosting against my ear, and whispered, "Run with me." And in that breath, I understood we were no longer content with stolen hours. We wanted a life, a bold, dangerous, messy life, built on passion and truth. I didn't hesitate. I said yes.